Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce the initiator of the Kiel Munition Clearance Week, the founder of ammucad.org and the CEO of Egios GmbH, digital entrepreneur and environmentalist, Jann Wendt.
Yeah, dear ladies and gentlemen, dear Daniel Günther, Mr. President of the state of Schleswig-Holstein. We would like to cordially welcome you today here to the first Munition Clearance Week. In the beginning, I would like to directly mention that this event was not possible, was only possible due to large team effort by the organizing partnership consisting of the GEOMA Helmholtz Center for Ocean Research, the platform ammucad.org, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Schleswig-Holstein, the Transmartec Schleswig-Holstein, the Kiel Business Development Agency, the Maritime Cluster Northern Germany, and last but not least, one of the most important ones, the state government of Schleswig-Holstein. We are very grateful to our state, especially to the Ministry of Economy, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Interior, and the Ministry of Justice, who made the financing of this event possible. Also, this event would not have been possible without our corporate partners, ThyssenKrupp Marine Systems, True Ocean, North.io, Fugo, and KUM Environmental and Marine Technology. So, we are very pleased that we are able to see so many of you today here personally. Despite the ongoing pandemic situation, more than 200 participants were able to join us physically here, and around 400 participants are joining us online for this event. In total, this means we have more than 600 people from around now already 31 countries, including the United States, Australia, Singapore, and even Brazil. To be honest, such a worldwide high interest in the event even exceeded our most optimistic expectations. This shows us that there is a high demand for taking action about the issue of munition in the sea. It is out of question that our society is facing several large-scale environmental issues. While microplastics, eutrophication, and overfishing are commonly recognized as major threats to the marine ecosystem, the issue of munition in the sea, a highly complex and multifaceted problem, is still mostly known only within a narrow circle of experts, scientists, and relevant stakeholders in its full dimension. Still, in the last years, we realized that the perception of this topic in society started to change. I believe that each of you can remember when you first time came into contact with the topic and realized the dimension of munition in our oceans. Well, in my case personally, it started in the year 2010, when I was the first time introduced into the issue of munition in the sea. I was deeply concerned about the scale, the complexity, and the possible threats resulting from this problem. Only in the German coastal waters, we are talking about approximately 1.6 million tons, which is equivalent to a freight train of around 2,500 kilometers full with ammunition, ranging from Paris to Moscow. But also other countries like France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Australia, Japan, and the United States, it's just to name a few examples, are facing the issue of large-scale munition dumping, as well as contaminated areas based on military activities. Starting from 2011, the first larger international projects regarding this topic were launched, namely KMC and MODEM. They delivered valuable results and formed the basis for today's ecosystem of munition research. The following generation of research projects, mainly the projects DAMON, the German project UDEM, and the still ongoing project North Sea Rex, focused more intensively on the ecological impact of munition on our oceans. By experiments with mussels as certain fish species, it was revealed that toxic and carcinogenic compounds are released during the corrosion of munition and enter the food chain. Therefore, besides the known direct physical impact by potential explosions, it became also clear that corroding munition poses a threat to human health. Recently, the European Union funded the research projects BASTA and Explotect, which are also still ongoing. In the framework of BASTA, several German dump sites are investigated for the first time by innovative autonomous technologies, while Explotect developed a system for measuring munition compounds in the water column. Preliminary results of these research projects will be also shown later during the conference and will be definitely of high interest for the full audience. Due to the partly alarming outcomes of the research projects and the resulting media attention, in combination with a growing awareness for environmental topics, in our society, the discussions finally reached also the political level. The issue of munition in the sea is discussed more intensively in the last 2 years on the state level, the federal politics, at least here in Germany, but also on the European level. The Baltic Sea Parliamentary Conference initiated a study about underwater unexploded munition in Europe. Preliminary results of this study will be shown during the conference. The next days will lead us through a very interesting program, covering all important subjects around the issue of munition in the sea. I believe that we have been able to win over excellent national and international speakers. The conference will start with the state of research. I think personally a quite interesting topic. Afterwards, we will continue today with the environmental and societal impacts. And the last session today will be the legal aspects, which bring us closer to the complexity of the legal issues. We are particularly pleased to have representatives from all fields, be it academia, industry, the public domain, the military, as well as non-governmental organizations. A problem of this magnitude can only be tackled in a joint approach. Therefore, we are expecting in the following days interesting and constructive discussions on how to start finally solving this issue. And a small personal note from my side. I'm really glad to meet you finally again in these days. The community that formed in the last years, including, for example, our colleagues from Kiel, but also our partners from national and international research projects, as well as all the other people who are involved, made together large steps forward, and I'm definitely proud to be part of it. There is nothing more left than thanking another time all the organizing partners, the funding institutions, and to wish every one of you an interesting first Kiel Munition Clearance Week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jann. I think, is my microphone on? Great, okay. That was marvelous. That gave us a good understanding of where this event came from and how it developed, because you are indeed the initiator of this event. So we get an idea of how this came to be what it is. It's been a while coming. I know last night at the Icebreaker I had a chance to talk to some of you and get an idea of the background. It's absolutely fascinating to see what has evolved here over this time. Now, I'm not going to talk anymore because we have a very important guest with us today. This, of course, would not be happening without the support of the state of Schleswig-Holstein. We are privileged and honored to have with us among our speakers and our guests today a man who has been following this topic and for whom it is of also great concern ridding the seas of munitions, because they do surround the state of Schleswig-Holstein in a significant degree. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Günther is the Minister President, State Premier, as I say in my job as a television news journalist, but the Minister President of the state of Schleswig-Holstein, and he is the patron of the Kiel Munitions Clearance Week. The floor is yours.
Yeah, dear Mr. Wendt, Mrs. Meissner, Mr. de Klerk, Admiral Schönbach, Professor Felbermeier, Colonel Schneider, Commander Grabsch, Dr. Harms, members of parliament, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Kiel Munition Clearance Week 2021. I am pleased that you are attending this conference. Schleswig-Holstein is Germany's leading region for maritime research. That's another reason why we are proud to be your hosts. And yes, it's good that the best international experts are here, because the topic is urgent all over the world, even here in Schleswig-Holstein. If you look at the geographical location of Schleswig-Holstein, with coasts on the North Sea and the Baltic Sea, we immediately recognize Schleswig-Holstein is particularly affected by munitions in the sea. We suspect 1.6 million tons of munitions in German marine waters. Moreover, the problem does not stop at our borders. You know it is a worldwide problem. This is also shown by the response of this event. Thanks again for that. In recent years, different research projects have provided us with essential knowledge about the distribution of munitions and the risks they pose. Researchers will have to continue to provide us with important data to improve our situational awareness and assess the effectiveness of future measures. Industry is already a firm partner in explosive ordnance disposal. In the future too, it will have to provide the necessary technology for large-scale salvage operations in order to be able to contain the risks. Politicians and administrators will have to pave the way for this. It is clear that we can only tackle the challenges posed by munitions waste together as partners. By taking part in Kiel Munition Clearance Week, you are showing that precisely the path you want to take. I would like to thank you for this advance. However, it will also be important to seek communication with the public and win the various associations and interest groups well in advance in order to provide information, to exchange views, but also to allay possible fears and concerns at an early stage. In addition to the challenges we face, however, the topic of munitions in the sea also offers perspectives and chances which we perhaps need to better recognize. This event will also contribute to that. Ladies and gentlemen, this week's program shows the complexity of the challenges posed by the legacies of war. I am pleased that you have come together here from different sectors to bring your expertise to the discussions and to finding solutions. I am convinced, together we will take a big step forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. What came through on that for me too was the legacies of war, the complexity of the legacies of war. As a television news journalist dealing with international issues, that is what I talk about, spend a lot of time talking about. And what's great about this event for me is that something that has been ignored for decades is finally coming to the front of the policy sphere with the support of the scientific community having made lots of advances, and also the entrepreneurial sector which have come up with ways of mapping it and we hope of disposing it indeed. We have just a couple of minutes to bridge at this point before our next speaker. comes on board. We'll be hearing from Marius Vaščega, the head of cabinet of the Commissioner of the Environment, Oceans and Fisheries at the European Commission. He will be joining us at 9:45 sharp. So we have just a couple of minutes to bridge until we get to that. This will give you perhaps time to log into your app if you're here in the room. I haven't mentioned the fact that we do have free WLAN here, of course. We have wireless LAN, and you'll find that at SHWLAN, I think, if you look for a network and you want to log in. So I didn't see that in the program anywhere, but that's an important point as well for those here. Those of you at home, you can already begin to maybe, or not at home, or at your office too, I suspect, wherever you happen to be joining us online from, you can be using your app at this point already to go through the program and think about what sorts of questions you might wish to pose to the panelists. We have a panel coming up in just a moment on the state of science, and that is going to try to lay out where research is, the state of scientific research on this topic. Perhaps you already have some ideas there. I know there are a lot of people from the scientific community represented here as well, but also from NGOs, different parts of Europe. Anyway, we have just a couple of minutes break. If you'll stay with us, we will resume promptly at 9:45.
Yeah, okay. Then just like this, dear Mr. President, you have to unfortunately leave already now. I would like to thank you also very much from the organizing partners, from the committee, and for sure also from myself, that you were joining us, that you were giving us some kind of position also from the political perspective. And yeah, I wish you some nice time, and I hope that we will see us talking about this topic again in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your patience. We can continue now with our program, but before we do, I just want to mention something that I failed to catch earlier, and it's a bit of news, actually, about Agios, about Jann Wendt's company, the initiator of this. So Agios has been renamed into North.io. If you want to look it up, that's where you'll find it. That's the domain abbreviation there at the end, IO. North.io. Agios is now North.io. I'm sure Jann will be happy to talk to you about why that's happening and what it means. But without further ado, I believe we now have 9:45. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, who will be joining us via Zoom. So he's not with us in the room, but he's certainly with us in spirit, and we are now going to hear from Marius Vaščega. He is head of cabinet of the Commissioner for the Environment, Oceans and Fisheries at the European Commission. A warm welcome.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to address you today at Kiel Munition Clearance Week. I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity to speak at this expert forum on large-scale munition clearance. Around 50,000 tons of conventional and chemical weapons lie under the Baltic Sea. These contain hazardous substances and can have possible negative impacts on our marine environment and human health. There is no time to lose. We must tackle this now. Your expertise is crucial to help us define concrete solutions at the political level. The European Green Deal has set in motion an ambitious political momentum to achieve good environmental standards. The Zero Pollution Action Plan, in particular, provides a supporting framework. It proposes a new integrated approach to better prevent, remedy, and monitor pollution from marine waters. EU member states must monitor dumped munitions to comply with the Marine Strategy Framework Directive. They also need to consider dumped munitions when preparing their marine strategies. But seas have no borders. Cooperation at the regional level is particularly important. Member states and neighboring countries sharing marine waters should continue to develop international standards and share best practices. Baltic Sea EU member states and Russia are already cooperating on submerged weapons and munition. This is happening through HELCOM, the Baltic Marine Environment Protection Commission. The EU has supported and will continue to support these efforts. At the HELCOM ministerial meeting in October, the updated Baltic Sea Action Plan will be adopted. This will be a key step in adopting a common vision for a clean and healthy Baltic Sea with specific actions related to dumped munitions. But we are not starting from scratch. Strong commitments were already taken at our Baltic conference in September last year, 2020. Ministers agreed on a number of actions to address all types of pollution, including dumped chemicals. Our Baltic conference was a historic moment for the Baltic Sea and for our ambition to protect it. Why? Because for the first time, ministers of agriculture, fisheries, and environment of the Baltic Sea EU member states committed to a common political declaration. This clearly boosts efforts to bring the Baltic to good environmental status. At the EU level, we are doing more, especially to support innovative solutions. The EU's cohesion policy addresses sea pollution. It finances research to green the economy and support smart economic transformation. The EU's maritime security strategy encourages member states to promote training programs, common contingency plans, and response models. To support this strategy, we have the Interreg Baltic Sea Region program. This program provides funding for projects that deal with historic contamination in the Baltic. Let me mention the flagship project Daemon as an example. Daemon has assisted the Baltic administrations to define management strategies for dumped chemical and conventional warfare. Its successor, Daemon 2, currently provides training to the Baltic authorities on new tools. The Maritime Fisheries Fund can also contribute to clean our seas. There are several ongoing projects in the Baltic. I'm happy that 2 of these projects, Basta and Explotect, are participating in this event. Also, the European Commission has launched a study with 3 main aims. First, it will map dumped munitions. Second, it will improve the coordination for monitoring and removal. And finally, it will determine a set of common procedures and an assessment of best practices to limit impacts to the marine environment. And finally, I'd like to mention the revised action plan of the EU's macro-regional strategy for the Baltic Sea region. It contains dedicated actions to remediate historic contamination with negative effects on the Baltic ecosystem. We are also setting up a macro-regional stakeholder platform. Here we want to develop action plans, strategies, policy recommendations, and best practices. I invite all of you here today to join this platform to share your expertise. As you can see, we have several tools at hand to help us clean our seas, but political willingness is also at the heart of the matter. As experts and stakeholders, you have a key role to play here. And this week's event is particularly important. And we are looking forward to hear about the outcomes of your exchanges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marius Vaščega, for joining us from your busy schedule. I know that there's a lot going on there right now where you are. What you mentioned at the very end caught my attention, the role that the people in this conference have to play in helping to give impetus to the political will that is needed to actually make something happen. So this is also a particular interest of mine personally, the relationship between evidence-based research and policy making, and I'm very interested to see how those discussions unfold here today. Thank you very much, Marius Vaščega. So without further ado, we move to our next program point. We're starting out this conference with a sort of international perspective, starting out very, very broadly looking at what's happening within the European Union and further abroad. Right now, we're going to hop across the Atlantic to the United States to get some insights from a slightly different perspective. We're going to be hearing a recording from Dr. David Bradley. Dr. David Bradley is a program manager for the Munitions Response Program area, which encompasses 2 major programs attached to the U.S. Department of Defense. These programs are the Strategic Environmental Research and Development Program and the Environmental Security Technology Certification Program. These are all long words, but I'm sure he's going to explain exactly what these things do and why they are significant. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you David Bradley.
Hello, I'm talking to you from a location approximately 80 kilometers east of Washington, D.C. Where do I wish to be doing this? In Kiel, with everyone and a cold beer. The purpose of this talk is not a detailed description of test sites, but what our experiences have been in development of those sites and our plans. It is an ongoing process, as you will see. There is a bit of overlap with Mike Richardson's talk later this week, some for emphasis and some for program detail. The abstract is shown for convenience. While you are reading, let me share an overview. The program is developing 4 test sites. The first is Puget Sound in the northwest corner of the continental U.S. The second is the Gulf of Mexico, and the third is Hawaii, and the fourth, the Mediterranean. All sites are relatively near shore, as the SERDP, ESTCP interests are limited to water depths of maximum recreational diving or less. While an expected set of geophysical conditions are not achieved, in all 4 locations, there is a broad spectrum of test environments for exercise of the detection, classification, and localization, or in shorthand, the DCL systems. This is a view of the total program, some of which will be seen in Mike Richardson's talk. It is to emphasize the point that the program supports efforts of principal investigators from basic research to and through operationally focused demonstrations. While that breadth can occur over literally decades in service-supported programs, SERDP ESTCP is determined to complete the process as rapidly as possible. An aspect that makes that possible is a technical council populated by members of the military services, Department of Energy, and the Environmental Protection Agency. This council not only assists in program planning and decision-making, but also provides liaison to local life site managers and to service authorities. That, in turn, provides resources to move a capability from the ESTCP, SERDP program. The specific program that I am part of is called MR in the office, or more formally, Munitions Response. The term munitions remediation is also used at times. Our purpose is to provide the capability to clean up unexploded ordnance, or again in shorthand UXO, at sites when required. The other major office efforts are shown in the slide you see, starting with weapons systems and platforms. Responsibility there is focusing on making weapons cleaner, making the platforms themselves more environmentally friendly. Energy and Water develops energy conserving systems and water protection at military bases and also with forward deployed military units. Environmental restoration is the cleanup of the program, and it's the cleanup, of course, of soil and water that has become polluted by past use for military training and operations. Resource conservation and relevancy is a program that is developed as a result of military training and actions and their effect on a number of endangered species. and also flora that had been put under additional pressure. This effort is investigating methods of mitigation or reduction of that pressure. The site in northwest continental U.S. is part of the larger Puget Sound and is titled specifically Squim Bay. The bay is connected to the larger water body by a relatively narrow, shallow strait. As a consequence, while storms can stir it up, it is, compared to open ocean locations, relatively benign. Water depth allows towing of DCL systems. Seafloor conditions there include both sand and mud. Locally, the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, or PNNL, a Department of Energy facility, which is managed and operated by Battelle, is located at Squim and has the local facilities and resources for in-water operations. Of the 4 locations to be covered, Squim is of order 1 year ahead of the rest, in large measure due to the efforts of the Applied Physics Laboratory at the University of Washington to test an acoustic-based DCL system developed by that lab. Plans this fall are to test 2 different systems on the same target field. One system is the APL-UW system called MUST, M-U-S-T. Acronym stands for Multi-Sensor Tow Body System. The second system is the EMI, or electromagnetic field-based DCL system, under development by a team of commercial firms. What we have learned in maturing Squim Bay as a question, first is the mentality that came from terrestrial work is one of centimeter errors in identifying a so-called dig location for a target of interest, or again in acronym form TOI. So after marking a spot, it was typically within the dimensions of a common shovel. Early on in marine operations, of course, that notion was quickly disabused. This audience does not need to be told that when working at sea and at depths of more than 5 meters, centimeters creep into meters very quickly. Calibrated placement of UXO-like targets and other clutter objects also became a major issue for both the developers of DCL systems and the test site managers. The following 3 points apply to all of the test sites. First, requirement for a good understanding of the site geophysical environment. Second, development of a target clutter configuration to challenge the DCL systems, but to make the challenge a reachable one that provides the developer the information to, if required, modify the system for better performance. And finally, the third, provide a calibration. The word calibration verbally should be noted as being in quotation marks, to provide a calibration set of UXOs and clutter that provide the developer with a rapid but complete check of their system prior to and oftentimes after entering a blind test field. The Gulf of Mexico site was selected to provide tests in the 0 to 5 meter water depth range, which, though shallow, is demanding due to water dynamics in the so-called swash or nearshore zone. Location seafloor is sand. Local facilities, which are extensive and experienced with at-sea operations, are those of the Naval Surface Warfare Center, Panama City Division. Plans still under negotiation are to host 2 system tests also this upcoming fall, but I might add very quickly, we hope after the hurricane season. The first test is with a UAV or unmanned aerial vehicle based magnetometer unit. The second is an acoustic system under development by the Applied Research Laboratory at Penn State University, called, again in acronym form, SVSS, or Sediment Volume Search Sonar. What have we learned so far in Panama City? Last year, after surveying in a test target field in the passages of 2 hurricanes and an errant shrimper vessel, more than 50% of the 17 items emplaced are yet to be found. What have we learned in the Gulf of Mexico? These are lessons that are often repeated for seagoers. The first lesson, of course, is that Mother Nature can be a very unfriendly companion. The second is that we don't own the ocean, we just visit it. This figure shows a close-up of Kaneohe Bay in the northwest corner of the island of Oahu, and the little insert shows both the island of Oahu and a high-level view of Kaneohe Bay. In Hawaii, the purpose is twofold. Development of a test site, of course, with, in this case, a coralline seafloor, and the development of a portable test system. Initial work is underway and plans are to test again a unmanned aerial vehicle-based LiDAR optical system as soon as we possibly can. The 2 primary locations under consideration in Hawaii are Kaneohe Bay, which is the larger view of the figure, and a more open ocean site offshore of Honolulu. The early lessons learned in the Hawaii site location are the trade-offs that we're looking at between affordable portable test units and the requirements for understanding environmental circumstances present a not an easily resolved set of circumstances. The Mediterranean site near La Spezia, which is the backyard of CMRE, the NATO Maritime Laboratory, which is also highly capable and equipped for at-sea operations. This site has been funded and will have a key role that differs from the first 3. It's clear from our studies that there are UXO DCL systems under development, especially in Europe, and it's equally clear those systems are as capable as, or more so, than their counterparts in North America. The hope is the developers will be willing to test their systems in a common environment and allow the results to be shared with the SERDP ESTCP office. Our task is to find the best systems possible and make them part of the total toolkit for UXO remediation. Let me close by just simply giving you a website location. It must be obvious by now the program, while primarily supported by U.S. investigators, has a considerable number of contributions from abroad. This website will provide plenty of detail about the program. On the first slide was both my email address and personal phone numbers. We look forward to hearing from you and hope we will find ways to work together. Thank you.